He's pushing the file.
Board of Education meeting is now called to order. If you choose to, please join me in a moment of silent prayer. Thank you. Would you please stand for the pledge? Salute. Pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have before you the agenda for tonight's board meeting. Do I have a motion? So moved. Do I have a second? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed. The agenda has been approved. Now we have recognition time. Dr. Murphy.
Yes, we have a number of folks that we want to recognize this evening, and Dr. Dotson, Mary Bill's going first, recognizing our retirees.
It's always an exciting time to recognize those that have provided so much to our students, have provided so much support to the board, to fellow faculty members, and we are so fortunate to have at least, I think, 13 out of our 27 retirees that are present tonight. That's a record for us, so we're very glad that you were able to come in. I didn't see any walkers or wheelchairs, so you obviously are doing a great job. But we are very, very excited, and I cannot express my thanks to all of you that have provided so many years of service. As I was reviewing the list, I decided to combine the years of service of our 27 retirees, which is a total of 809 years of educational service to our students. That's amazing. I don't recall having one that was that high. But we are so glad that you're here. I'm going to go through the list, and Christy Williams, who has helped prepare our awards and assisted with RSVPs and correspondence, will assist. If you'll come up when your name is called, I will say your name, your number of years, and keep in mind that we may have had private school experience or out of state that may not have been included, so please feel free to correct me if the years of service is incorrect. But we are going to start with Diane Baggett, and after I'm done, if you'll stay, you can shake the hands of board members and stand, and Mr. Gasson would like a photo. Diane Baggett, one of our principals, 27 years of experience. Janice Barnett, I have no, there's Janice. Janice, speech language pathologist with 26 years of experience. Linda Boostrom. Linda was an instructional support teacher, and Linda, 28, or is it 28 years of experience? 33 years of experience. Cindy Burleson, teacher, Bluff Park Elementary, 27 years of experience. Dr. David Fancher, former principal, Bluff Park Elementary, total years in education, 38. Jean Ingram, Hoover High School, Office A, 25 years of experience. Martha Inman, otherwise known as Marty the Son, Spain Park High School, Family Consumer Science teacher, 39 years. 40. Bonnie Lessman, teacher, South Shades Crest Elementary, 33 years of experience. Karen Martin, teacher, Simmons Middle School. Is it 28? 28 years of experience. Paula McGarity, Rocky Ridge Elementary. Instructional support, I think she did library, I think she did whatever they asked. 31 years. Rhoda Peoples, teacher, Brock's Gap Intermediate, 30 years. Vicki Portis, Bluff Park Elementary, music teacher, 30 years. Ellen Stubblefield, is Ellen here? Ellen was Trace Crossings, reading coach, 25. Are there any other retirees that were able to make the ceremony tonight? Okay. We thank all of you so much for your service and wish you the best of luck.
Get them on.
So honored that you all could be with us tonight. Dr. Murphy, members of the board, we also have some students to recognize this evening. I'm going to deviate from the program just a little bit, and you'll hopefully understand why once you see what you're about to see. Later in the program, I think you're going to have some discussion about band uniforms, and some members of the Hoover High School Band have come to demonstrate the band uniforms, and one of those students is going to be recognized later, so we want to go ahead and take a look at the uniform. So as soon as the doorway is clear, we will invite the Hoover High School Band members on into the room. Come on in. Hoover High School Marching Band.
Dr. Murphy and the members of the school board. As the Hoover High School Band Booster President this year, it is my honor to represent our band family, which consists of our directors Ryan Fitzpatrick, Sally White, and Matthew Cicero, and more than 500 booster parents. Our directors send their apologies that they could not make it this evening, but they're rehearsing the band. These students represent their classmates who number 308 in the Hoover High School Marching Band this year. On behalf of our band family, I would like to express our deepest appreciation to you for purchasing our new band uniforms. Don't they look fantastic? Our dance line and our color guard do purchase their own uniforms, but we wanted you to see how great they look together. Under the leadership of Valerie Morgan and Josh Lynch, our Simmons, Bumpus, and Brock's Gap middle school programs have become more successful over the last few years. This success caused us a big problem. We didn't have enough uniforms to go around. We have a wonderful community who supported us well, but our fundraising efforts fell well short of the mark. So again, we want to thank you for making up the shortfall to purchase our beautiful uniforms. Our children worked so hard at a national level, and it's great to see them looking as good as they sound. On a personal note, my family feels so blessed to be part of the Hoover High Band.
our children are not only getting an exceptional music education, but they are learning valuable character-building skills for life. They're learning leadership, how to keep a positive attitude in the face of obstacles, and how to be part of a team. They're also having a lot of fun and making friends for life along the way. I could ramble on all night about our band family, but I really just wanted to say thank you so much for supporting us. And we have some other parents here tonight who are part of our Hoover band family. I'm going to ask them to stand and stay standing until we're finished. Some of us are in the back and came along with our children. Linda's standing over by the door. She's our uniform mom. And she spent so much time at Hoover High School lately that they stopped giving her the stick-on name tags and made her a permanent plastic name tag. So I'm going to let the students tell you about the band. And I want you to please listen carefully to these words, because this is what our students tell us the Hoover High School band means to them. Daniel?
Hut!
Family,
Family!
dedication,
Dedication!
determination,
Determination!
sacrifice.
Sacrifice! Hoover!
Thank you, Hoover High School Marching Band. One of these students you're going to see in just about 30 seconds again. The next group you want to recognize are our National Merit semifinalists. First, I want to recognize Ms. Cindy Bond and Mr. Tracy Prater. Where are you guys? These are our college and career specialists who shepherd our kids who are going for the best scholarships they can get. And obviously, these kids, when they reach that level of National Merit semifinalists, it's such a special recognition. So glad you could be with us tonight to see these kids and to celebrate them on and to help them to the next level of this journey. At Hoover High School, we have 6 National Merit semifinalists this year, and want to call them forward to meet the board. So if you would come forward as your name is called. Juhi Agrawal, Nathaniel Farnlocker, Connor Jones, Uzma Nur, Daniel Phillips, and June Shin. Come on up here, Mr. Hewlin. Let's get a picture with you, Miss Bond, and the kids. Congratulations, Hoover High School National Merit semifinalists. Spain Park High School has 8 National Merit Scholarship semifinalists this year. So if those students would please come forward. Stanley Badio, Christopher Bro, Catherine Hunter, Alton Pinehart, Stephen Ritchie, Zoe Shore, Peyton Spencer, and Blair Williams. All right, guys, move toward the middle. Let's get a picture of you with Mr. Prater. Get them all, get them together. Hoover City Schools National Merit Semifinalists for 2016. Next, I'll ask Dr. Robbins to come to the microphone from Berry Middle School, recognizing the teams group.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dodson and Dr. Murphy, board. The opportunity to recognize these students. 1 year ago, we were recognizing the Berry Middle School students who participated in the teams competition for their first place win in the state, as well as their 4th place win in the nation out of 13 teams. Well, I'm happy to report that 1 year later, we're back here in the same spot in order to recognize the Berry Middle School students who have participated in the teams competition. TEAM stands for the Test of Engineering, Aptitude, Math, and Science. And these students, they participated in the 2015 state competition in Auburn, and I'm happy to report that they came in first place again in the state of Alabama. These students then went on to compete in the national competition in Dallas, Texas, where they came in 8th nationally out of 32 teams. We're very proud of these students as well as their sponsors. And I'd like to invite Ms. Howard to come forward so we could recognize her for her hard work and also so that she could recognize these wonderful students. Ms. Howard.
These kids worked so hard. They worked 3 weeks into the summer so that they could compete in Dallas. They took their time, for 3 weeks after school ended when everybody else was having fun, and they were working hard in my basement, getting a paper written and a presentation done. And I'd like to recognize the following students: Misaki Uchida, Lauren Cortman, Sophie Mayhew, Kruthika Deervath, Alex Laney, and Marcus Madonna. They're all looking forward to trying again this year. We have 28 kids trying out for an 8-person team, so we're looking forward to seeing a few of them again.
Congratulations, Berry Middle School team. And finally, tonight we have Mr. Oliver Parker from Spain Park Middle School here to share some information about the debate team and to recognize one student in particular. Mr. Parker.
Sorry, Will. Didn't mean to knock you around. I'm so excited for Will. He's almost left his debate coach speechless, but what he's done is over the past 4 years, he has represented Spain Park High School at many national tournaments and local tournaments. His freshman year, he won the state championship for Lincoln Douglas debate. He has gone on to the University of Pennsylvania, the University of Kentucky. I could go on and on. He's represented us at 2 national tournaments, and in the process of this, he's won what amounts to the Eagle Scout of the debate world, which is called Debate All-American. So Will, if you'll come forward. if all the debaters will stand, all the debaters in the audience that represent our debate team this year, the ones that could be here, if everybody could give them a big hand. And they're in good hands with Will. All right, congratulations.
As everyone exit out, really, it's great to see so many talented kids and hard work parents and our teachers putting time with our kids and making the best they can possibly do. So that's a great job. As always, I see Paul's marker on the bag, all the Paul out in Montgomery, which you probably need him in there now. He's always engaged in the Hoover, and really appreciate you coming. Paul's marker. Thank you. Greg Kelly, I believe you may have someone you'd like to introduce.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Larry Lee's here in the nice-looking vest. I almost look like Auburn colors. Mr. Lee's an author. He has a blog. I don't really like that word, but that's what it is. And he's a wealth of information for me personally, and I know that our board has shared in a lot of things he writes. He is on top of things with the legislature, past, present, and in the future, which I hope he'll mention something about his thoughts about the legislature that will convene next year. So I just want to say thank you, Larry, for coming, and thank you so much for the information because we need it tremendously. I appreciate that. Would you mind, you have something you can share with us briefly? Crystal ball?
There are no crystal balls. If I had one, I'd use it to figure out if we could find a quarterback at all.
Thank you, Craig. I appreciate that. And Kathy, you've come a long way from Monroe, gal. That's all I can say as I listen to all these honors and the recognition. Kathy is a dear friend, and y'all are, I think, blessed to have her. She's a, don't get on her bad side, though. I would just I would warn you on that. But a long-time friend. Thank you for the. I try to get out and just visit a lot, and it's impossible. And if we had more people that would come to board meetings and visit schools and see what the wisdom that was honored here tonight by retirees, but more importantly, the kids that y'all recognize. We're doing some fabulous things in Alabama schools. And I was at a little meeting several months ago in Montgomery, and they recognized 7 kids from Russellville High School and Middle School. Little old Russellville, Alabama, up in Franklin County, that went to Paris and beat, well, first of all, they beat 700 teams in the United States on rocket building. Then they went to the Paris Air Show, and they won there. Now that is a heck of an accomplishment. That is a heck of an accomplishment. And we're doing things like that all the time. I was at the Hudson Alpha Institute in Huntsville just 2 weeks ago and watching kids from Hartsville go through the labs and learn things. And we're just doing some, and Hudson Alpha, a lot of people don't realize, was started by 2 guys from Huntsville. Lonnie McMillan and Jim Hudson. And the guy who runs the whole thing, the leading researcher, Rick Myers, grew up in Selma, Alabama, and went to the University of Alabama and was at Stanford when they enticed him to come back. So in spite of all the doom and gloom that some of us are subjected to all the time, things ain't all that bad. Now they can always be better. And we're never going to have the kind of school system that we would like to have. But we've got to speak with one voice. I don't think that education really has a voice in Montgomery for lots of reasons. I commend y'all for the meeting that you held the other day, Chairman Murphy, at Vulcan, because it's time we finally realize that we're being overlooked. And we made, in this last special session, I think we made the best of a tough situation. But what we really have learned is that children are the low-hanging fruit. And come February or March, whenever we go back in again, and I tell people, you know, that I come from Montgomery, I make a lot of speeches, I say, I bring you greetings from Montgomery, the only city in the state where there are 2 zoos. One of them is not open full time. But we've got to let some of those folks know what's going on in Alabama schools. The 2 things I would recommend, and I'm going to hush. I've told some other people this. We talk about adopt the schools. I'd like for some schools to adopt a legislator. To find a legislator in your community and have a school. When it's his birthday, get him there, or her birthday, honor him, something other. Get them in that school. Let them know some things that are going on. Just send them email. Communicate with them. The second thing, if I were the czar of Alabama, there'd be a decree go out that 1 day a year, every member of the legislature would spend 1 day as a classroom aide in a classroom in a school. Because they're bombarded by so many different things, it's impossible to know everything you're supposed to know. But until you get in there, and I've done this, until you stay in a classroom, and I'm not talking about you run by and you read a book to the class, you say, oh, what I've at the school, I read a book to a little class. That's a drive-by shooting. You got to do more than that. You got to get in there and see what these people do. And see, and y'all are blessed here because most of the systems I go into are high poverty systems. And that's a whole different world. And I think some of my friends in Montgomery sometimes think that every kid is raised in a house with a mom and a daddy and a white picket fence around it. And that is nowhere close to being reality. So I appreciate y'all allowing me to come visit. We commend you for taking part to engage yourself with the kids of this community because you are truly doing the good Lord's work. And I feel that very strongly. Craig, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. At this time, we have public participation. Yes, sir. Going forward.
I'm Dan Fulton. I live in Bluff Park. Larry, what is your blogs? Is it LarryEducation.com?
Yes, sir.
LarryEducation.com. Do check that out. Now, by the way, I'm a member of the Jefferson County Education Retirees Association, and I hope that you will convey to the retirees that they are more than welcome to join us. We will be meeting this coming Monday at the Jefferson County Board of Education building at 11 a.m. 11 a.m. this coming Monday, and guess who our guest speaker will be? Mr. Larry Lee. So if you would like to hear Mr. Lee, I suggested that maybe Dr. Murphy join us and Dr. Pounsey and Mr. Lee could have a powwow and solve all our education problems in one meeting. But at 11 a.m., now this is where we had the meeting by Vulcan. That was in front of the Jefferson County Board of Education building. It used to be the old State Farm building. You park on the Valley Avenue side, by the way. But 11 a.m., please join us. Mr. Lee will be talking, and he has a lot more to tell you. You really need to attend. And everybody in here is welcome, and the board members and of course the retirees. Hopefully, they might want to join us as a member. As what our 2 priorities is to, continue the fight for quality and great schools, and also to protect our pension, which we all look forward to when we finally retire. But I appreciate it. I just wanted to make one more. We have some great students in Hoover, absolutely, and that was proven tonight. And they deserve the very best. That's why I've been going to the council and asking them to put more money into the schools. I hope they did tonight. And I want to say one more thing. When I was at Shades Valley in 1963, I was privileged to be an honor debater in the National Forensic League, the NFL. We were the only NFL members in Shades Valley, but we used to call it the National Forensic League. And high school can be very forensic indeed. But thank you.
Any additional public participation?
I want to know what it takes to be a national merit finalist. There's a lady sitting next to me, and she said that her grandson made a 36 on the ACT. So I mean, I don't know what it takes.
That'd be a good start.
That's a real good start.
Nobody else
Yeah.
today.
I mean, what does it mean?
It's scoring in the top 1% on the SAT.
Top 1% for SAT. Okay. Impressive. Mr. Cooper had asked, I think it was the last meeting, about the contribution that home builders make to the schools, to the school system. And I made a few phone calls, and I'm just going to give you some totals of what the homes. I'm not a home builder anymore. I built homes for 22 years. I'm not in the home building business anymore. So I really don't have a dog in this deal, but I want to share these numbers with you. The front door fee, it's my understanding that goes to the schools, is $1,500. There's also, when builders take out a permit, there's an erosion fee of $100. There's a neighborhood fee of $600. There's a permit fee of $6 per thousand. On a $400,000 house, that's $2,400. And then what a lot of people don't know, all of the materials, everything, sheetrock, shingles, lumber, concrete, everything on a house, the materials that are shipped to that job, they're taxed at 9%. 4% goes to the state, 2% to the county, and that 3% on $200,000 of materials amounts to $6,000. So you got a total of $10,600 on a house. Now, what contribution you guys might get the builders to raise on the front door fee or from Hoover, I don't know, but I just want to share these numbers with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any additional public participation? All right. You have the minutes from our regular board meeting, September 14th. Do I have a motion? Move. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed. Minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda would be our personnel report. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Board, Murphy? No discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Personnel report has been approved. Next item is our business item that equate to our monthly financial payroll and cash distribution. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Business actions have been approved. Next topic. Participant District Agreement Amendment.
Yes, well, we've received a request from AASB for the Participant District Agreement Amendment. And I have had an opportunity to talk briefly today with several folks with AASB. I still have some questions that are unresolved for me. but this is a program, and Kathy, you may be able to talk further about this program. It's the Fairbanks program that
Yes.
allows the school district to
To
recover.
Medicaid.
So Kathy perhaps could answer some questions. Have not had a chance to visit with her today, but just wanted to, first of all, bring this proposal to you, or this agreement to you, to see what questions, thoughts you might have, and how you might wish for us to proceed.
Ms. Ante, Dr. Murphy, this agreement, they're asking for it to be extended to 2020, is that correct? Or at least the portion dealing with the city?
Yes, at least the portion dealing with the fiscal agent, which in this case is the Tallahassee City Schools.
Okay, do we know that it has to be extended by vote to that date, or can be extended per annum, or do we know?
I don't know the answer to that.
It's my
the soft-
understanding, as long as that this has been going on, Tallahassee has been the agent of record for that process. So I don't know that there's even an answer to that question as far as how the extension works, or whether it needs to be coterminous with the agreement with Fairbanks. I'm not familiar enough with that part of it, because that certainly has been around for a good while to be able to answer that question. I do know that the person at Tallahassee who manages that process for Tallahassee, I know personally, and I have very high regard for that person.
Why would Tallahassee do this, and for example, why wouldn't our district? I understand it's got to be a single entity, but I'm just curious why Tallahassee is of the record.
I believe it probably went back to whoever was the custodian of funds, or the chief financial officer, or whatever at Tallahassee at the time when it was implemented. And maybe they had particular knowledge around it, and it's just been passed on from entity to entity. I think also its proximity to Montgomery was used as a reason why that was a site of record. Certainly another district could do that. Tallahassee probably has enough bandwidth to do that, because they're not a very large district, and they would have capacity without needing to add extra hands to be able to oversee that for the state. And they do, I believe, get some type of reimbursement for their efforts in that.
Do you feel like the reimbursement that either ASB is getting or Tallahassee is getting, is that something we can undertake ourselves to save money? I guess would be a better word than make money.
I don't know that we have the expertise and the knowledge around how to process that. That would be something we'd have to go out and learn about. And we would then, of course, I believe we would ultimately have to pay another agent to help administer with that. So we might just, instead of it being spread out over more, we might just be taking something all on ourselves that might be more equitable just to share with others in a pooled process. But I don't know that for certain. We've not examined that, because as Kathy referenced, she and I have not talked in depth about this particular issue.
Barbara Mayer probably knows more about this than anybody, because it's not a matter of pooling resources and sharing anything. You pay as you go. You pay per claim. And I don't know if we bundle all our special ed Medicaid claims into one big hopper and do it one time or twice a year or something like that.
We periodically file.
But I imagine the numbers on an annualized basis for this district is fairly significant.
We get around approximately, it varies a lot between what situations we have, but it's been as high as 200+ thousand, down to 150,000. It's very variable. We have to go, yes, for a year on an annual basis. We have to go through.
So we got them $400,000 to get back to.
No. That's what I'm saying. That's what we receive back.
But what did it cost us to get that? What is the, be careful how I word this, the percentage?
The percentage of reimbursement on the
percentage
claim.
that whoever administered the program got before we got reimbursed.
I'd have to go back and do the math on that. I don't know it off the top of my head. Pardon?
The way it works is the fee for the outfit Fairbanks team who does the Medicaid claim process, fee for Tallahassee, fee for who takes the money in and hands the money out, and fee for ASB who merely pays for somebody to audit the money coming in and coming out of Tallahassee. All those fees you can roll together, and you can count 50% of those as professional fees. So you get 50% back of what you pay in essence. So for every claim that goes in, I wrote the numbers here, what's in the contract? Almost $9,000 per claim. That's when I asked the question, is it per claim like on a per student basis, or is it a bundled claim that we do on an annualized basis? But you just said $200,000 means we pay $400,000 out. You could probably hire somebody for
And that's certainly, you know, like I said, we've not discussed it, and we can certainly pursue that
Oh, I
and give you
know.
more detailed information as to whether or not the viability of that and what that would look like. I don't know what the downside is to not participating with that group. We'd have to explore that as well, if there's some other benefit by, and I don't know that there is, I'm just, you know, saying we'd have to look at all sides of it to make a fair
Well, I know.
assessment.
Dr. Murphy, what is the timetable that we have to vote or accept, reject?
October 31 is the date that AASB has asked us to,
Ask us or told us we have to?
We ask that you take action on the contract amendment at your October board meeting and return the signed contract to AASB by October 31.
And the penalty we don't is we know that we'll be included, or they just,
yeah, so I called today and spoke to Jane Williams, AASB attorney, briefly today. Amber Anderson with AASB. I tried to reach Sally Howell today, was not able to. Of course, the conference just ended for AASB this morning. There are very clearly some questions that remain on the table that have not yet been answered. But there have been questions really that just you can't seem to get the answers to, though if you will craft or help me craft those questions, we certainly will go back out to AASB and seek answers. We can certainly postpone a vote on this, see what our questions are, come back, provide you answers to those questions, and then see if we're prepared to vote on this. There is revenue that comes back to us through this consortium. There can only be one consortium in the state that oversees this Medicaid return of money to us, and so that consortium is AASB. There can only be one financial agent in that consortium, and that is the Tallahassee City Schools. Don't know the particular history other than the only thing I've ever heard is it was Tallahassee's proximity to Montgomery. But there are some questions that I'd be happy, that I have and that you may have, I'll be happy to try to get answers to.
And, you know, I don't know because we're a subrecipient for federal funds, and I don't know whether we could break out from being a subrecipient to go straight to try to get a Medicaid reimbursement, and that could be part of just sitting here thinking through the process of how that trickles down from the federal government to us. We would have to explore that as well to see, because we are still considered a subrecipient even of our IDEA funds and all that. It flows through the state to us. So they are the primary grant recipients. So
I just can't imagine the dollar value. It must be astronomical. We've got special ed kids, but there's some districts that got special ed kids.
Well, according to AASB, our January to March 2015 money's coming to us, pushed $100,000 or a little over $100,000 for that quarter of what we were reimbursed from the Medicaid monies.
Now, I know that's the deadline, October 1st is the deadline ASB has given school boards, but there may be, I'm sure it's another deadline.
That's a subjective date.
Yeah, so, I mean, does that wrap into, the question is, will that wrap into our November meeting?
Amber Anderson said the best she could answer that question for me today was that if that date had been set by Fairbanks, that would mean we were taking a pass on this amended amount. It doesn't take us out of the Fairbanks consortium or the AASB consortium, but it's been redesigned in such a way and amended in such a way that we should be getting more money. But if we don't approve this agreement to amend, then we just miss out for the quarter that until which time we approve to get in. We would be passing on some money.
So the board would have an opportunity at its pleasure to postpone or table this and still vote by the end of this month. Is that correct?
Would require us to have a special call board meeting.
I mean, we have 31 days in this month, we have plenty of time, it's just the 5th, I believe. So, with so many unanswered questions, I think it was a good idea that we table it till we could get some board questions answered and move forward with that.
So if you would, whatever questions you have, if you'll get those to me, and then I'll send that out to AASB if you'd like, and we'll see if we can get those answers.
I think we owe it to the stakeholders and the fiscal responsibility we have to just have the answers. Not saying it may be as good as it will get, but at least we'll have the answers. Make a motion to table consideration and vote on this issue. Let's call them back. Motion on table.
Motion on the table to table this participation at this point. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion has been
Mr.
carried.
Murphy, if you'd indulge my comment, this dialogue that's just taken place between Dr. Murphy and the members of the board just illustrates how much intelligence are brought to the important issues that face this board. That is so impressive to listen to what y'all have just discussed. It may not benefit enormously, but you don't know until you ask these intelligent questions that really probe behind the tradition that so many of us have just accepted, that it's a program that's been in place as drafted for many, many years. And y'all are saying, let's examine the assumptions to see if they still are applicable. And I commend all of you for the intelligence that you're bringing to these important issues.
Thank you, Mrs. Sweeney. Next item on the agenda, instructional support services contract. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any comments from the board or Dr. Murphy? No comments? All in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion has been approved. Now we are in our information reports. Dr. Murphy?
Yes, we have Dr. Dodson.
Well, Dr. Dodson and I have agreed to flip-flop because mine is so very short, and that would let Ms. McCombs go ahead and do it. If
Sure.
you're all right.
So, Melody Green, Ms. Green, intervention minute.
Right. And we'll just take a little more than that. We're blessed in Hoover City Schools to be able to have the services of 7 licensed social workers as part of our intervention team working with students K through 12. What we'd like to do is just give you a little heads up of one of the important events that's coming up. So I'm going to ask Mrs. Jennifer McCombs to come and share with you an intervention minute about one of the events we have planned.
Hello. I'm Jennifer McCombs. I'm one of the intervention counselors, and we have an event coming up October the 20th that we are very excited about. And one of the things that makes this so exciting for me is that, and for our team, is that we put a survey out to all of our Hoover City School parents and guardians. And the survey was sent out via school messenger as well as the school websites. And we had 1,500 survey respondents. So out of all the Hoover City School parents, we had 1,500 parents respond and tell us 2 things. One thing was what kind of information they as parents were eager to find out about their children, what type of topics, educational topics. And then the second thing that the survey showed us was what type of venue would they could they benefit from to receive that information? In what way? Did they want to come to the school? Did they want to watch a video? Did they want, what type of way did they want to receive that information? So out of that survey, we scheduled it's a district-wide parent event, so that will serve K through 12. And it's going to be, like I said, October the 20th, and that will be at Old Berry High School. Old Berry, but in the Crossroads section of that building. And of course the event will be free. It'll be from 6 until 8. Child care will be provided by our peer helping programs with a supervising adult. And some of the topics that are going to be covered, we have one keynote speaker. Her name is Angela Camp, and she is from Bradford Health Systems, and she is the National Adolescent Marketing Coordinator for Bradford. So she will be our keynote speaker. The breakout sessions will cover topics such as social media trends, substance abuse trends, preparing your child for independence, developmental stages, peer aggression, commonly referred to as bullying, and anxiety and stress. So those were topics that our Hoover City School parents said, we want to know more about these things. So that is a need that we're trying to meet as part of our intervention team. We'd love for you to come.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, one more thing. Meeting information will be going out, website, school messenger, Twitter, flyers, any other way that we can get the info out to the public. So, thank you.
Need to set up the screen. Jason, can you please?
And that's a Tuesday.
Dr. Murphy, members of the board, I know time is short tonight, so we are actually going to split this presentation into two parts. Tonight I'll be sharing basically the test results, the data, and information about our recent graduating class, and I'll get into more of the how the good or bad, the accountability piece next month. There's a lot of changes going on at the state level that we've just found out in recent weeks that are still undergoing change on the accountability side, so I will be able to give you a better idea of what that actually is in November. But in terms of the test scores themselves, we do have that information, and I'm very pleased to share that with you tonight. Just to review, I shared this particular slide with the board last January when we talked about the 2014 results. As we've undergone this shift in curriculum in Alabama toward college and career readiness, it's important to understand what that's based on. Readiness is defined in terms of ACT's definition of college readiness, which is based actually on matching student scores back to their first year in college grades. And so that's why you have different thresholds for a subject like English, which is relatively easier to make a passing grade in your first year in college, and science, which is typically the hardest course to get a passing grade in your first year in college. So you'll see that difference in terms of the performance levels varying between those subjects. You have to kind of keep that in the back of your head as you look at this and think about when we say ready, what does that mean? And obviously when we talk about a third grader being ready, what that really means is they're on track to being ready. They're not ready to go to UAB just yet in the third grade. The first set of data I have to share is achievement. I always want to share this disclaimer with achievement. Anytime we talk about achievement, we are talking about a fourth grade seat compared to a fourth grade seat. These are different children who happen to be sitting in those seats from year to year. Those are different children who perform differently and bring different abilities and needs to the table. So this is a less than ideal measure, but this is the measure that's required under federal law, so we do track it. But Alabama sets 4 score levels. Those familiar with the old ARC test will recognize those 4 score levels, but the descriptors that go with them are very different. 3 and 4 are what we want to see. That means the student is on track to being ready or exceeding expectations for readiness. They're more than a year ahead of their peers if they're exceeding. Level 1 and 2 is what we don't want to see. Level 1 means that they are more than a year behind their peers in that particular area. 2 means they're close, and that really does mean they're close. Means hopefully the next time around we can catch them up and get them over that threshold. We do not have leveled data for 10th grade, so some of what I'm showing you tonight is just going to be 3-8, and I hope I can add the 10th grade data for you when we meet in November. The way this data is presented is to show you that distribution of scores from 2014 to 2015 in terms of the distribution across those 4 levels. This is the English test, which is not a required test, but it's a test we have given just to make sure to reinforce good writing skills. Remember, English is that lowest threshold in the readiness spectrum, and therefore it's not unsurprising to see a relatively large number of students who are either ready or exceeding. What you want to pay attention to is this boundary between the green and the yellow. Anything above that boundary is ready or exceeding. Anything below is in need of support or close. And you can see in general across the board, we have very, very few students who are in need of support in this particular category. And those, except for in 4th grade, have all gone down this year. And in general, our students are making progress in this category. Mathematics is one we pay a little more attention to. It's one of the required subjects, mathematics and reading. And very, very pleased to see, if you'll look 2014 to 2015, at every single grade level, we have more students rating and exceeding in this particular area. That's been a focus of a lot of teacher training, a lot of material support for the last 2.5 years. And very, very glad to see the dividends of that paying off in terms of the kids being able to measure up to these much higher standards in mathematics. So this is a very, very good trend to see. We're watching 5th grade a little bit. We had fewer students exceeding there and a few more students in need of support. But the overall number of students is higher already, so they were more clustered toward the middle. So 5th grade is an area we're watching, but across the board here you see good improvement in this area. We also showed significant improvement in reading. You go across the board here at every grade level. And again, a couple of places in middle school where we want to see what's going on. There's a little bit of movement in the wrong direction at this level in terms of a need of support. But it's really good to see that trend line. If you kind of look going down 3rd through 8th grade, it's really good to see that trend line going down in terms of the kids who need support. And from year to year, across the board, you see the number of students reaching or exceeding the standards showing up. Science was a benchmark test this year. We did not give it in 2014. The State Board of Education just adopted new science standards. We have been using the same science standards and the same science materials since the year 2005. Because of the recession, that was postponed. And so we're looking forward to a lot of new resources in the science area. We wanted to get a baseline score for our kids to see where they stand, and we're going to be following this over the next 2 years to see what kind of improvements we can bring about in this area. Very excited that we have a new piece of data. Since this is the 2nd year that we've given the Aspire, in addition to just achievement, we now can actually measure learning gains. Learning gains is a growth measure. It's a child-to-child measure. So it's how Ron Dodson did this year compared to how Ron Dodson did last year. To get that score, Ron Dodson has to take the same test twice over a year's period of time. So this is a more difficult threshold to meet in terms of getting useful data. And because it does have to have those 2-year data points for the same child. As a result, we only have this data for grades 4 through 8. When we start giving the Aspire in the 10th grade this year, we'll have that next year in 2017. But this does mean that students who move in from out of state, from private schools, or from home schools will not have a learning gain score until their 2nd year in the system. So when we watch this data, we need to realize that it's masking transiency to a certain extent. What we're looking for ideally is at least 1 year of growth, 1 year of typical growth, and obviously we'd love to see greater than 1 year growth. We will see less than 1 year growth as well, and that gives us an indication of somewhere where we need to do some work. We'll have unknowns here. These are kids for whom there was not 2 data points matched. Either they were with us in 2014 and not with us in 2014, or vice versa. Obviously, this is an independent measure from achievement, but it's really important to set the context in achievement. Ideally, we want to see that high combination, a high-achieving kid making high learning gains. But we can also see a low-achieving kid making high learning gains. And that's an indication that we have the right interventions in place, good resources are supporting that child, that student is going to catch up to their peers over time. We will sometimes see this, a high-achieving student with low learning gains. That's an indication of a student who's bored, probably not being challenged enough and needs to be stretched. Differentiation at the upper end of the scale. What we really don't want to see is this down here, low achievement and low gains. That means a student is behind and is falling farther behind. And if they stay on the track they're on, they're not going to catch up to their peers. So you see how these 2 pieces of data work together really powerfully. And if you look at how this is distributed out, we don't have the red at the bottom anymore. We have the gray. That's the unknown. Those kids could be anywhere on here. But you see overall, this is the English data. You see really good distribution of the kids who are making at least a year's worth of growth or greater. That's really good to see in terms of a first data point. We'll have a second data point next year to compare. This is the mathematics distribution. And this is the reading distribution. All very similar in terms of their patterns. We don't have science because we only gave it 1 year this year. We'll have baseline for that next year. I'll have a lot more to say about subgroups when we get to the accountability discussion in November, but I did want to show you this data in terms of the test results for these groups. The 2014 information is official. That comes from state published data. 2015 is my best guess based on what the state is doing in terms of changing their definitions and their factors right now. There's a lot of definitions they're changing, exclusion rules, and those are still in the process, unfortunately, of being reconsidered and changed. And so it's made it very, very difficult to pin down where we stand here. But I think we're close enough to be able to see the trends that we want. I've got, in this data for the subgroup, I've got grades 3-8 grouped here, and those are the kids that took the Aspire. I've got the 10th grade in high school over here because they took the plan in 10th grade, not the Aspire. The plan was given in 2014 and 2015. It will not be given again. And we were not told that it would be the high stakes test for high school until after it was given for the last time. So nothing like taking a final exam and finding out 2 weeks later it was the final exam. But anyway, that test was being phased out. The state is going to bring Aspire to 10th grade, so we'll have to be able to match the same data with 10th grade that we're now getting for grades 3 through 8. But we're going to have to phase that in over the next year. This is all students, and you can see that we've got good overall general indications of improvement. The math in the Aspire and the math in Plan are lined up, so there's good movement improving in both of those. Reading is improving, but reading is orange here, and this over here is green. Why is that? Because again, the state in their wisdom here decided that instead of measuring reading in high school, they would measure English. And the English test is not the same thing as the reading test. So I changed the color to green to indicate that that is it's actually a different test. And next year when the Aspire is given in 10th grade, it will be reading. So we'll be able to do a reading-to-reading comparison at that point. This is how our Asian Pacific Islander students did. Remember, our population includes a substantial number of Eastern Asian as well as Southern Asian students, and those come with very different needs depending on what they're coming here for. Our African American population, our Hispanic population, and this is a good example of when you have one grade level being tested in a small group, how just a few kids can change percentages dramatically in those particular areas. Limited English proficient, these are non-English speakers who've been in the country less than 2 years. So the fact that any of them are on track to be college ready on a test that's written in English is a minor miracle, in my opinion. But that is, they are one of the groups that we have to measure. Multi-race is a group that has changed in definition for the state, so we're actually going to be looking at 2 different groups here from 2014 to 2015. That's going to be a little tricky with this group. Poverty is one that we've been watching, especially here in Hoover, regardless of the race or the area. This typically has been a group that we've struggled to work and help in our area. And it's really encouraging to see the consistent improvement in math, the consistent improvement in reading for this group across the board. Even if there is a slight dip over there in English, it's still a high-performing area. Special education is also one that can swing wildly from year to year, but this is pretty good results for that group as well. And finally, our white subgroup. And this is actually, when we get to accountability, this is going to be an area of concern to talk about. It's an area of concern because notice that it's relatively flat all the way across. And we're called upon to improve all groups. So what this is telling me is that we've got to raise our expectations for our kids who are performing well. And so we've got some work to do to make sure that the kids who historically made it on these assessments are being challenged to do better, to improve. Finally, our class of 2015, we always look at their ACT data. and a couple of big changes this year. This was the first class where 100% of the students had the opportunity to take the ACT for free, which is an awesome resource. We expected that that would lower scores because the students who weren't taking the ACT were not typically the kids who would have made a 36 on the ACT, but I believe this is a good thing for Alabama and for Hoover. You had families that never would have thought that they had an opportunity to go to college, who have found out opportunities for scholarships and resources and connections, so this is a good thing. Even though our scores did fall as a result of this, I've got the Hoover data is in bold, and the Alabama state data is next to it, so you can compare how we did compared to changes in the overall state data from 2014 to 2015. Career readiness was also assessed with this class of graduates for the very first time. In the ACT work keys, we did have the issue at Spain Park where a large number of students did not participate in the test. I already talked about that with you back in the summer. But that meant that our scores here were not where we wanted them to be at all. And what we're aiming for is that silver level where students are eligible for 2/3 of the jobs that are on the market. That's the target area. And we know that we can do better. This represents somewhere around 63, 64% of the class, and we know we can do better than that. So the emphasis this year is going to be on assessing all the students. And we always look at this data. It's good to see that over 90% of our kids are still being accepted by one of their top 3 choices. Typically, almost half of them are offered scholarships. This year, they total over $50 million for this class. 95% of the kids told us they were planning to attend college, and only 3% going directly into the workforce for military. And of the seniors who were enrolled in our school in 12th grade this year, only 2% did not walk across the stage in May. A large number of those did make it in the summertime, and Dr. Murphy has shared with me her idea to have a graduation service next summer for these students. I think that's a wonderful idea, and I really look forward to us doing that with those students next summer. So that's the data. We know we made a lot of improvement, but was it enough? Does it measure up to the goals we set for ourselves, the goals that the state set for us? We'll look at that next month as we examine accountability. Thank you for your attention, and we'll have this on the website tomorrow in the curriculum section under accountability. Thank you very much.
Well, a couple questions. You mentioned earlier when we had this discussion of last year, when we got the results, that we felt like we'd get a bump in outcome based upon the fact that we have everybody taking a test online this time rather than pen and pencil. How much of this increase do you think was attributed to the fact that we took it online versus actual academic improvement?
I don't know that I can quantify that.
I don't want us to misrepresent the challenge got before us by thinking that we've done better than we really did when it's actually tested to it.
Yeah. And it depends on the test itself. The reading test especially, I think that made a difference because the students had to respond to prompts. So I think we have to look at that test more so than the others to look at the differences. But I really can't say exactly how much. It certainly did have an impact, I believe.
Another thing, you kind of blew through the subgroup pretty fast, so it's hard to really tell. But when you got to the white subgroup, if you will, and talked about the actual performance was pretty much flat. Perhaps the white kids need to be challenged more. Is it, in your opinion, do you think is it much about the challenge, or is it the fact that teachers are having to differentiate so much in the classroom that the average to above average student, which normally is white for the most part, they are challenged because the teacher's challenged to bring everybody else up. Because when you look at those who are absolutely not ready, that number is still a meaningful number.
There is, and that is, certainly. I'm not saying the teachers aren't trying to do what they want to do, but it is great. It is a huge challenge. The diversity of the kids in terms of what they're walking into the classroom with and without is a farther spectrum than it's ever been. The kids are having to deal. With a lot when they get home, a lot more than I think we had to deal with when we were growing up, and they bring that with them into school. So a lot of attention and a lot of resources and a lot of face time and hands and hearts have been expended on those kids who are struggling at the bottom. And sometimes we take for granted the kids who traditionally do well. And certainly don't, we don't want to let them just cruise. We want to make sure that they improve. One of the reasons for investing in technology the way we have is to allow that kind of differentiation to take place, so that it's not just aimed at the bottom. Hopefully, we're able to engage the kids wherever they are.
Well, I'm gonna tee this one up for you. You can do whatever you want to with it. But as we look at this budget and we look at the number of locally funded units that we've got, totally locally funded, which are considerable, and you look at things like some extracurricular activities where certain of our faculty and staff may have 2 periods a day that they are actually assigned to a class. They may have 7 kids in it. I don't know. Or you might look at technology that has 6, a nominal amount of numbers. Are we better suited to realign some of the extracurricular stuff and or realign the focus of the expansion of technology to find a way to drive intervention down to those levels where they need that differentiation involved, as opposed to, where we're at now?
That's my hope. I think we've been preparing steadily for that. The work that Brian and his team have done to get us ready to do that. I don't think there's another school district. I mean, there's other school districts that have the equipment, but to have the equipment, the experience, and the know-how, and have learned the lessons that we've learned, I don't know that there's another combination out there in our part of the country that has done that, to be ready to do this.
Part of the fun, but I teed it up, not so much for technology, but I teed it up for some other extracurricular activities that are, let me just change that focus a little bit.
But that's all, it's all connected, because when we started this whole initiative, and you may be the only member of the board who was here when we actually started this ball rolling in 2007. We said at the time, there's no research out there that shows that technology improves achievement. It doesn't exist. Nobody has been able to replicate that in a study. The only way technology has improved achievement is when it allows teachers to differentiate instruction to meet the needs of individual kids. When technology can be used successfully to do that, to basically make good teaching happen on an individual basis, it can have astonishing effects. So that's why we made the investment.
So you're skating around the question here.
I'm trying not to.
Well, it's not about technology. It's about human resource, the number of teaching units we've got, and individuals who may teach 2 classes a day, a host of individuals who teach 5 out of 7 periods a day, and that time, which equates to a cost, which equates to potentially additional intervention, additional resources to throw at and focus on our biggest challenges.
So, one question for me. So, are you saying that socioeconomics, parent participation is more so the building block or building down block for students more so than the race component?
In my experience, yes. Okay. And as we look across Hoover, it is a, poverty carries with it a lot of detriments. And in terms of, you can't bring back a lot of those experiences. So trying to recover and remediate is you have to invest considerable more energy the older the student is before they come to us. And our students enter our system all through, even in high school, we have kids showing up in 11th grade, Mr. Wheeler. And so the older they are when they come to us, the less time we have to get them back on that upward curve to doing better.
So background preparation and the resources they have come into the system.
It does.
Any system, right?
But in terms of equipping the teachers, we know that if we have fewer teachers at some point in the future, I hope that we've prepared our teachers with the resources in such a way that we can continue to meet the needs of those individual kids to the best of our ability.
Well, I want to point out to Derek that I heard on Michael Berry today on the way over. No, actually Sean Handy. Ben Carson was raised by a single parent mother with 3rd grade education since he was 8 years old in Detroit, Michigan, to Boston, back to Detroit. She could not even read. She made him read, she made his brothers read, she made them do book reports. She couldn't even read it. She'd draw lines on, they thought she was reading. She had no clue. And he did okay. He did okay.
So parental support is all that plays into.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's got to be a partnership.
Give them a form of school.
Derek, can the ordinary public ask a question? Okay. As a member of the ordinary public, thank you. I have a question about, do we have any idea where the majority, are y'all tracking of where the majority of our kids are moving in from? You know, we've been talking about this for years and years and years. And is there any, if we know where those kids are coming from, with Derek making this wonderful reach across school districts, you know, I've always said we need to care what's happening in Birmingham because their kids are coming to us. We can't pretend that we all operate in isolation in little silos because we're all mixing, if not at the retail centers, then in our schools. Do you know, I know those are sacred cows and you don't go to somebody else's school and say, somebody else's school system and say, hey, could you do better at this? But somebody has to start that conversation, and I always thought we were in the best place to start it because we seem to, kids move in and out an awful lot, so we would be able to collect a lot of data. I want to lay that on your plate, Ron, because I think, you know, maybe that's a conversation that Derek can have with other school board presidents or Dr. Murphy can have with other superintendents, you know, because there are huge varying levels of achievement across Jefferson County, you know, way up here and way down here. And I will say this too, Derek, to your point about parental involvement, you know, Larry, who I think he just had to leave, I hate that, he has a wonderful saying where he says, you know, okay, so kids come to us without involved parents. We still have to teach them. And so we can't make their parents do anything. And I've heard, you know, some people, it's kind of like, well, too bad, too sad, you don't have parents, we'll get to you one day. Those, to me, are the biggest challenge, right? I mean, we can look at it and say, thank you, parents, for supporting your kids, but public education was really here to make sure everybody gets that, with or without parental involvement. So I would ask you to be particularly, you know, not judgmental of the kids for not having parents involved, but hey, we've really got to get involved here. Somebody has to, and I think the kids will benefit from it.
We have I got to differentiate, different with you a little bit on that.
I would expect you to.
Yeah, well, I agree with the parental involvement being an important thing. I don't think we hold kid accountable for the lack of involvement on the parents' part. But I do think that in the classroom, there is a big situation where there are a host of kids, regardless of the parental background and the support they get, who simply don't care to be there. They don't want to learn. And the challenge is not teaching the kid, it's a challenge getting the kid motivated enough to want to learn, to be acceptance of what we're trying to do for them. And it's not unique to Hoover, it's just it's a characteristic of kids who, you know, who are in their own right belligerent sometimes about education, about school, but it's not good, whatever.
Dr. Smith is not here tonight, but we had an amazing Title I parent engagement rally Friday night at the Old Berry campus. All 5 of our Title I schools partnered together on that. Parking lot was full of kids that couldn't wait to get out of the car, go in there and meet the middle school cheerleaders and play the games, and it was just an amazing evening. So I do think that sense of engagement, we're on an upward track there. And it's been 2 or 3 years, Trish, since we actually tracked that data. It's fairly difficult to nail down, but it's all over the board. And we're seeing an increase in the percentage of kids who are coming completely from out of state. And I think that's an indication of national trends where it's not so much moving around town, and there is a lot of that too, but it's just moving. People moving where the jobs are and where they can work. There was a question to that. I want to make sure I get.
Well, yes, sir. Just asking, thinking about those, those children whose parents aren't involved, can't be involved, or they characteristically are belligerent in class. Do we really have the resources to find out what the root cause of that is with them coming in, or the reason that they moved in? Because, you know, Derek asked about, was it socioeconomic, or, you know, was it race? You know, there's this factor of, is there somebody that identifies with me that I can talk to, that will hear my voice and meet me where I'm at, especially when I am asking, for help, and not knowing, where that help or that resource is. And many times, if they don't trust the people around them because there's nobody that, hey, looks like me, talks like me, or understands where I come from. And then, even this, when you have PTO meetings at 8 o'clock on a Monday morning, you make it really hard for the working class parent to really get involved with what's going on in that individual school. We get the messages that come out and say this meeting here, there, but it does not meet the need of the average working parent who really wants to be involved, or even engages those parents who say, okay, I have some time, my kids are older, I want to give back, I want to come into the school and be there to be a tutor, maybe after some of those extracurricular activities, to help those students that just need a little push because their parents aren't engaged. And that's just simple volunteerism.
That's a very good point. And one thing we know, Janet and the Hoover Foundation's Hoover Ready initiative, in terms of the data that you guys helped us tease out, we know the longer the kids are with us, the longer we can make those, we have to make those connections, and the kids do better the longer they're with us. And so I think it's an indication that we've got good things going on. We can definitely do better. I think the engagement is getting better. It's not there, but anyway, I hope this is helpful to the board, and we'll pick up the conversation next month.
I was just going, may I add one quick thing here? When you think about R's, reading, writing, arithmetic, but there are three more: rigor, relevancy, and relationships. One advantage of smaller classes is it gives the teacher time to develop that relevancy, that individual one-to-one teaching, and also relationships with the student as well as the parents, spending time with the parents, time to meet with the parents, have conferences, discuss strategies for that reluctant learner. And there are plenty of them. Many of us were reluctant learners at one point, especially it seems to hit in middle school especially. Let me ask a quick question. That fifth grade, you had some concerns there. Do you think that's where a lot of students are now starting to come into public schools, maybe coming out of homeschooling or private schools?
No, it's two things, I think. The fifth grade test has got some quirks with it. The test is a little bit different at each grade level, and it's got some quirks in it itself. Also, as we look at fourth grade data from last year, we saw a similar trend. So this is, that little cohort of kids has its own dynamic as it's moving through. So just something we have to watch in the overall trends. Thank you very much. I'm sorry.
Good point, Ms. Public.
I needed you. I used one of your quotes. I used one of your quotes and you left them in.
Sometimes you just
Is there any new business? No. Superintendent report?
Certainly want to remind our public about our community rezoning meetings. Our first meeting is tomorrow night at Brock's Gap Intermediate, 6:30 meeting, and then also this week at Trace Crossings or at Hunter Street Baptist Church, we have a meeting, community meeting. That meeting's at 6:45, so a little bit of conflict with time, but there are two community meetings, and I'm pleased to start our meetings. We will have 5 total community meetings. I will also be going out to all of our schools for faculty meetings. 3 principals have already contacted me to say that they'd like for me to come out to faculty meetings. And by the way, for my secondary principals, you don't even know about it yet, but that was a meeting with elementary principals on Friday. But I am offering to get out to all of our faculty to have faculty meetings between now and getting away for Christmas, so that I can hear from our faculties. I am very hopeful, board, that we will be able to craft from our community meetings a zoning plan and strategy that we can bring to you either in February or March for your approval, the subsequent meeting at a month after that. So after we hear from our community, we hear from our schools, I plan to also bring all of our principals together once we begin to have this laid out, and to let them have final eyes and conversation with me on that. And certainly we'll keep you all informed as we move through this process. So I'm very hopeful, not later than March, to ask for your approval on a rezoning plan. Please move me to the top of the prayer list.
Mr. Murphy, the representatives from the Justice Department were so pleased that Dr. Murphy was going to take this initiative to go to the community so early on in the process. They emphasize that it's a two-way dialogue, and one side of the dialogue was for Dr. Murphy to explain the guidelines within which the Justice Department and the Legal Defense Fund would be looking at rezoning structure that would meet their criteria. So the guidelines that Dr. Murphy is going to spend a good bit of time on will outline kind of the dimensions of the field that we're working within, and then get feedback how the concerns of the community can be factored into those guidelines. And they were real pleased that Dr. Murphy was receptive to making sure that it's a dialogue as she goes forward.
Thank you. Ms. Wayne. Any additional?
Yes. Yes, board members, you also have some information regarding some proposed policy changes. As you are aware, we receive the policy pipeline every year after legislative sessions from AASB, and so simply what you have is the information from the policy pipeline based on legislative session in March that was concluded. We do not have anything that yet came out of the first or second special call session. The information that you have may not be exactly the number of our board's policy. As I went through it quickly this afternoon, I saw some places where we'll have to just do some renumbering. But you have some proposed policies. These policies have been vetted by the attorneys with the Alabama Association of School Board. It does not mean that we have to adopt them in the language exactly as it is, so I'm open to your critique. I'm not asking for your approval this evening, but for your review over the course of this month, and asking that you approve those at our November meeting. So if there are questions now, or again, if you wish to propose questions to me as you continue to study and review, then we'll get answers for those for you.
I sent you a little something.
You'll do what?
I sent you something.
Yes.
My observation.
I had to wait.
Anything else? All right. Next regular scheduled board meeting will be November 9th, 2015. Next we have, at this time, the board will recess to a public meeting to consider two discipline matters in executive session. Do I have a motion to recess the public meeting to meet in executive session for two student discipline matters?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Michelle? Possibly 45 minutes is the length we're looking for, if not sooner.
And at the end of those at the end of those disciplinary hearings, the board will reconvene in public session for a decision, but there'll be no other decisions that'll be made about any other topic, just the results of the hearings on the student discipline.